and welcome. My name is Michele Jutrisa, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up here in New South Wales, Australia. Thanks very much for joining me today. Now, I have got a new product to share with you. So I'm going to flip this down, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share this with you, show you how it works. I haven't opened it as yet. It's all still sealed up, so I haven't even had a play with it. And then we're going to create a card from what I create, what I make with it or play with. You'll get the hang of it. Excuse me. So let me flip this camera down, jump on, say hello, let us know who you are, where you're from. And good morning, Nicole, or good afternoon, Nicole. How are you today? So if you are a demonstrator, you will already know that Stampin' Up have brought out a new positioning tool. And this is so then we can stamp in exactly the same place as last time. If we didn't stamp correctly, we can, it's a much easier tool to use sometimes rather than a block. Really great for people who may not have the best use of their hands, someone who tends to maybe rock their stamps, all sorts of things, or just, you sort of want to stamp multiple cards all exactly the same, which you might do at Christmas time. So this is a really, really good tool for this. Now, it's available to Stampin' Up demonstrators right now, but I think like today's date is the 30th. There's only another 1 or 2 days that you can order this if you are a demonstrator. If you are not a demonstrator, the only way at the moment you can get this is by signing up to become a demonstrator in February. So I think that if my memory serves me correct, it's from about the 3rd of February, 4th of February through to the end of February. So, and you will get this for free with your products that you choose to put into your starter kit. So this is a freebie that Stampin' Up are giving. I'm not quite sure. It does come, you can also purchase the grid paper for it as well. Now, whether that's going to come free with it or not, I'm not 100% certain. Sorry, I was going to look all this up before I came on, but I've just had a busy morning. But I do know that you actually get the repositioning tool for free, okay? So all you have to do is sign up. And I'm just going to, just bear with me 1 second. I am just going to have a quick look on Stampin' Up site here. Just want to be able to make sure. No, I don't want that. I want to go into there. Sorry about this, but I'd rather be able to give you, okay, to join Stampin' Up at the moment, it's $169 and you get $235 worth of product, including business tools. Now, in February, this will also include for free this product here, the repositioner. So you'll be saving at about another $80 or $90, I think, roughly. I'm trying to think what I paid for this. I can probably actually tell you. Let me just go back to here. Now, I haven't got this showing you this, so you're probably just looking at me, looking at the screen really funny. But it's just, there we go, that one there. At the moment, as a demonstrator, how much are we paying? It's not telling me. I know it was under $100 anyway, so I'm going to come back to here so you can see me again. So anyway, as a demonstrator, if you are currently a demonstrator, you can order this now up until around about the 2nd of February. If you are not a demonstrator and you would like to grab one of these repositioning tools, you can only do it by signing up as a demonstrator for the amounts that I was telling you. Otherwise, if you just want to order one of these, I'm not quite sure when it's going to be. They haven't actually informed us. I would say most likely, I'm just assuming here, most likely it will become available to everybody. But at the moment, they haven't given us a time to when that will be happening. So let's open this up. Let me stop talking. Let's open this up and let's have a look what we get in this product. As I said, I haven't opened it as yet. So, and I do want to stop waffling on, and I do want to start creating. Okay, so this is what comes in the box. Pop that down there on the floor. What you get in here is one small plate, and I'll explain all these plates to you, and then you get a larger plate, a clear larger plate with a grid already stamped, printed on there. You get 2 magnets, which are different to the last ones we had. The last ones were bar magnets, and if you picked them up and they snapped together, they could have broken, or and they were very hard to separate and also very hard to pick up unless you put some tape on it. These ones here, they've got them in like a little case, and they've got a little flange on the side of it, which makes it really easy to pick them up. When they come together, they won't break, and you can just pull them apart quite simply. They are very strong still. Let me just do that in frame. So quite handy. Okay. Then we have this base plate, and it also comes with a book of instructions telling you how to use it in different languages and some visual pictures as well. So let's have a look at this plate. Let's just break it down and have a look. So I'm just going to pop all that to one side. So this is just a whiteboard. It's got a foam mat underneath. So when that sits on your table, there is a little bit of movement there, but it is quite secure. Now, I don't think there's any right way or wrong way. You could either have it facing down towards you, facing with the pegs on the side, pegs at the top, pegs on the other side, pegs on the bottom. It's really working it out what's going to work for you. So you've got a range of pegs across the side here. I'm going to pop this sideways. So you've got a range of large pegs here. You have 2 spring-loaded nodules on the ends there. Now let me just see if I can bring this out a little bit. So I'm just sort of realising that I played this morning with my layout of my desk, and I don't think I've got something right. Let's see if I can do that. Hold on a second. Okay, let's try that. That's a bit more on our desk. I might even remove for the moment my name down the bottom. So let me just see if I can remove that for the moment. So we'll just go there. Whoops, we don't want breaking news. I suppose this is breaking news, isn't it? Oh, there's some new things on here. Okay, let's just nice pretty blue and yellow border around the outside edge of it for the time being. Okay, so we've got these on here, and I'll show you how they're used in a minute. You've got these little spring-loaded portions here. I'll show you how to use those. Then you've got some tiny weeny little nodules across here. That's for the paper to be attached to. There is, and I can hardly see it, So I probably wouldn't be able to show you. Oh, you might just see if I can get that at the right angle. You can see you've got two rulers across there. The top one is in centimeters. The bottom one is in inches. And it's the same across there. Now, the other thing to point out to you on here, if you can just see it, there's a little triangle piece in there. Now, that's for positioning your cardstock if you're stamping something and you want to stamp, say, 10 of the same thing. Okay? If you have any questions, please pop them up on the chat so I can see. So anyway, let's have a little bit of a play. So that's that. You've then got, as I said, you've got two boards. Okay. The right way up is where you've got your Stampin' Up showing upwards. And then you have two holes at the top and two little spring-loaded feet at the bottom there. And those holes there will marry up with these two nodules here. Now, when that sits there, that board is up off the base, okay? There's a difference there, probably of about, well, it's one little finger difference. It's probably a bit less than a centimetre, probably about 75 mil or something like that on there. So there's a bit of space in between the two, which is really great. And the whole idea of this is once you've got your stamp and everything on there, you push down. Okay, I would say push down to where you have your stamp. I wouldn't push down on the corners. If your stamp's in the middle, then I would push down on that section. But anyway, we're going to have a play and see how it works. Now, while I remember, then we have this other plate, and this plate has got 4 spring-loaded feet, and then it's got the 2 holes at the top here, and those 2 holes are what these are for. So this will allow you to stamp a sentiment. And then a demonstrator I know in England showed the other day a very good tip on stamping sentiments. So I'm hoping that we can do that today and get that to work so I can show you. So let's just open this up. Our paper pack. Pull this out. Okay, so it comes a paper pack. Position a grid paper. There must be about 50 sheets in there. Yep. Okay. Got one side in inches and the other side is in centimeters. So that's good, handy for anybody. And this is what these little holes are here for. So you just line these holes up on this side and pop them on, and that will hold that paper there in place for you. Okay, so how does this work? Well, I've got to do some stamping, and I'm actually going to show you using this one here first. Actually, no, I won't. I'm going to do some stamping using the big plate. Now, the card we're going to be making today is going to be using I'm using the, what is it called? Lovely Blossoms Sweet Collection. So that's this one here. And you have got the stamps. Whoops, my phone has decided to ring. I'm going to just decline that. And let me just turn that off. Okay, I'll pop that away over there so it's not got a noise. So this is the stamp set that goes with this particular suite. So you get the Lovely Arrangements bundle, and you've got the Lovely Blossoms Designer Series paper, and it's the Lovely Blossoms suite. So what I need to do is I need to stamp some of these leaves. So I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock here, and I'm just going to line this up on my grid paper, and it doesn't really matter at this point where I'm going to line this up, because all I want to do is stamp some leaves, some solid leaves. So I'm going to pop that there. Now I do need to stamp 3 of these, so I'm probably going to have to clean my stamp and move it around. Though I probably also could do it on my little one, but I want to do it on this. So I'm going to pop my stamp. So I've got my stamp here. I'm going to pop it face down onto my cardstock where I want to position it. Now I'm die cutting these out, so it doesn't really matter where. I'm going to pop this plate down on top. Now I've got my magnets down and they will hold that paper in position. Now I can bring these magnets in closer because they're not a very thick magnet. They're a lot thinner than the old ones. So if I wanted to, and I want to make sure that piece of paper does not move, I can bring these in fairly close. They can sit underneath there. I just press down and that picks up the stamp. Okay. It did actually pick my paper up a little bit, but that's probably just because I haven't used this stamp before. So it's probably a little bit sticky. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a rub on my skin just to season it a little bit. Now, what I would like to do is to grab my Secret C and I'm going to take my stamp pad to my stamp. I think being such a big platform that's probably the best way to do it. I'm going to flip that over, pop it onto those little nodules there. It's now just hovering above that cardstock. So to stamp down, all I need to do now is just press down, hold it for a couple of seconds to let that ink absorb and then lift it up. If I want a more solid image, which I do on this one, I just get my ink again, ink this up, pop this down again, and stamp again. And that will stamp again in the exact same spot as before. Now for the card I want to do, I actually want to stamp this onto some cloud cover. So I have got here all my bits and pieces I need for my card, and I've got a piece of cloud cover cardstock here. So I'm just going to swap this out for my cloud cover. I'm going to pop these in. I'm going to clean off my stamp with my chamois because I want to reposition it, so I want to have a clean stamp. Now I could, if I wanted to, and I might even just give this a go, pop that onto there, and I'm going to bring in the other plate. So I'm going to position that over my stamp, press down, and then pick this up. Now, the reason why I'm going to do it with this, I want to stamp a couple of these. Now, with this being so smaller, you could take your stamp to the stamp pad, but I'm still going to go, I think, to my ink. I'm going to position that in those holes. Now, because this is something I'm not going to need to line up, I'm going to, it doesn't matter if this is not straight, but if you're wanting to line something up, and I'll be showing you that in a minute, you want to make sure that this is straight. This has got a little bit of a play in it, and we're going to stamp straight down. If I'm happy with that, which I am, I'm now going to ink this up again. Sorry, I'm just sort of being a little bit uncoordinated today. I'm going to move this down to the next set of holes. Whoops. Pop that on. Again, I've got ink this time on my plate, but when I stamp, that ink won't transfer. So I'm going to stamp down and let it up again, and that has stamped nicely. Now I want to stamp another 2 of these, so I'm going to take this off I'm going to turn it around and position it again. I'm going to make sure that I've got enough room, and I'm going to have to clean this and move it. So I'm just going to clean this again. Because I'm going to angle this just so I can get that in slightly better. Have my feet down, pop that onto those two little nodules there, press down and pick up. And I'm going to move that just a little bit closer. Now, of course, I mean, it could be a lot quicker doing it with a stamp on a block, but sometimes when you're doing a solid image like this one, you don't always get a good impression the first time you stamp. So having this so then you can stamp it a second time is very handy. Now, if I pop that down there, yes, I am going to get a second one in there. So let me re-ink this up again. We're going to pop that onto there and it's sitting where I want it, and stamp that again. And again, I've got a nice impression. So that's the first thing I need for my card. So I'm going to remove this stamp, just pop it to one side, and for the moment, close this up. Now, I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to be using 3 of those or 4. Hi, Kay, how are you? But I've got 4 there to use, and we'll die cut those out in a moment. So let's just pop that to one side for the moment. Now, let me just get that little bit off there. What else do I want to do for my card that we're going to create today? I want to create a line of words to go down the side of my card. So this is our practice run. So I'm going to pop these onto here. I'm going to use the same plate as before. So I'm going to be using this little one. Now this is about the same size as my card front anyway. And what I want to do, now I'm thinking, as I said, I haven't tried this as yet, so I'm thinking, I know this piece of paper is about 14 centimetres. So what I'm going to do, it's 14.4, so about 15. I'm going to line it up in the corner using my grid paper down here. I want to get it nice and square as possible. And pop these on in here. So this is holding this on. And what I want to try to do is stamp hello friend all the way down. Now this is about 15 centimetres or 14.9. So I know 7.5 is really about the middle. So that's about there. So I'm going to start in the middle. I want to line that up in the middle. Now I don't know if this is going to work or not, because this is my practice for my card. So I'm going to pop that there, and I'm hoping that when I pop that on, that's going to pick that up nicely there. Now again, I haven't used this stamp, so let me just give this a bit of a rub on my hand. And I'm going to bring in Petal Pink for my practice colour. And I'm going to actually go back to, keep getting myself all twisted up here today. I'm going to take my stamp pad to my stamp. I just think sometimes with things like this, it just makes it a lot easier. I'm going to pop this in the middle there. We're at that about that 7.5 centimeters. So I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to stamp down. Great. Now, if you wanted to, so this is how you can stamp it up the other way because it's narrow. You wouldn't be able to do it with the big one. And I'm going to stamp that one there. I want to take it down. So let's have a look. That's where I had it. So this first nodule there is on the 6. I'm going to move this hole down to the 6 and I'm going to stamp that there like that, which is going to give me that. I'm going to move it down 1 again, making sure this is all nice and square, and stamp it again. Now I'm going to take it going in the opposite direction and work back up to the top. Now there's a reason why I started it in the center. The reason why I started in the center is I didn't know where my words were going to end up. I didn't know if I was going to end up with some falling off the edge here. So I thought, well, if I work from the center outwards, then if the words are falling off the edge at the end, that's okay. Now, I've got all these spaces. Oh, look, I missed a spot there. So let's just re-ink that one up again. Pop that one in. And make sure we're all nice and lined up. And we'll stamp that one again. Didn't quite get it to line up properly. So I've got to be very careful to make sure you've got this square each time. But what I want to try to do now is fill in those gaps. I want my hello friend to be a little bit closer than that. So what I'm going to do is now I've got my first layer on there. I'm going to layer this in the middle, in between, trying to get them as evenly as I possibly can. Now there's probably an easier way, but I haven't worked that out yet to do this, and we're going to pop that in there and press down and pick that up. So let's now start. I'm going to start this time from the top since I've already got my groundwork in there. Push down, stamp. Now, as I said, this is just a practice one, so stamp. I'm going to go down. So I'm just going down 1 peg at a time, making sure I'm nicely lined up each time. Probably a little bit out in there. So I would need to practice this a bit more to get my, hello Joan, to get my words just that little bit more even. Make sure this is lined up. Stamp. Go down 1 more. Stamp. Now, I've just found I've got a problem here. I can't go down another one to stamp that last one. So what I'm going to have to do for this is move this up a bit. Now, this is going to be guesswork. Now, this is where a tip that my friend in England did. She did it on a sentiment, so I'm going to give it a go here. I've got a space there missing. And what she did is she didn't use the pegs. She lined it up. So I probably have to move this over. Could even do it on my mat here. So I'm going to pop that down there. Because once that's sitting there, that's not on the paper. That's not hitting. And I can then line up where I want this one to go and press down. And there we go. Now, the only thing I'm not happy with this is I've got too much spacing in between. So I've got to work that one out. But let's give this a go on my card. So I've had a play here. I'm going straight to my card. So I've got a card base here, and it's a 3-fold card base. I will put all the measurements and everything on the weekend up on this. So it's going to fold like that. So it's a 3-fold. And what I want to do is stamp my Hello Friend along there. So I'm going to start off with, these are the issues I'm going to have. I can already see. Let me pop that to one side. That's going to fold that way. It's gone on the floor. And I want Hello Friend to come down here. Now, to be able to do that, I could push that up to here, but I know that this cut line is going to be very, very close to the end of my stamp, and I don't want to get ink on this piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around and pop that on there like that. I'm just going to hope that these magnets are going to be strong enough to hold that down. And I'm just using those little nodules at the moment as my stopping point. Now I need to clean this because I need to take this off and reposition it. So I am going to actually position it from 2 centimetre mark up to the 17. And I need to pop this, I want this to go in the middle. Now I've got to remember this has got to go upside down. So I need 7.5, and I think there's about 2, so I've got 2, 4, 6. A 7.5 is going to be about there. I want it fairly close to the end, and I need to make sure that that is going to be nicely lined up. And it's actually, because I've got this on 2 here and the 17 up there, it's almost at 0 here. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I've got it in the right spot. If I don't, it's not going to be quite lined up. So I'm going to press down, and let's give this a go. I'm either going to do a big fail or it's going to work. Now I'm going to have to take my ink where I've got my stamp positioned on this block is very close to those feet. So I do want to probably, if I, no, this is going to get in the road. So this is what happens when you haven't tried something and you're just fingers crossed, toes crossed that this is going to work. So I'm stamping Petal Pink onto Petal Pink cardstock. Press that down. Let's get that out of the road. Let's see if I can ink this up successfully without having to, there we go. So I'm using that narrow edge because I'm close to those feet, and I'm going to move it up 1, stamp. Let's do that again, move it up another 1, stamp, and now I'm going to go back up the other end. Making sure this is all fairly square, stamp. So who has got themselves one of these as yet, and who has played with them? Stamp. Let's clean that off. Hello Marie, how are you? So who has already got their new repositioner? So let's fill in those holes in the middle. Again, my stamp is going upside down, and I want that one about there. Pop that into there and then press down, pick up that stamp. And then we're going to work back down again. Just remember to move your stamp a little bit around on your stamp pad so you're picking up ink from different places. Stamp. Now, it probably would be a good idea to test your different stamps and doing something like this, because a lot of it would all depend on, because I've got got one here, then I've got a bigger gap here, then I've got two, then I've got a bigger gap. And it all depends on the size of your font, I think. Hi, Lee. If this font was slightly bigger, you probably wouldn't notice that gap so much. But I think it's just going to be a matter of playing and having, while this is so new, having a practice and seeing what works, what stamps you can do different things with. Because it is, at this point in time, it is still, I think, still very much trial and error. But, I mean, I'm not going to worry too much about that gap, because that was the second lot of stamping. That's the first lot. And I don't know whether it's, if I moved it down a bit more, whether that would make a bit of a difference. As I said, I think it's just going to be a matter of learning a little bit how, or where the best position is to place things. Yes, this is Lee. This is the new stamp repositioner that's replacing the Stamparatus. So having a bit of a play while I create a card, and this is my first time playing with it. So I've only just pulled it out of the box. I haven't even got it yesterday, and I haven't even looked at it yet. So that's my cards so far. Would prefer if these were a little bit closer, but it's all uniformed, and I think, you know, that's the main thing. It is uniformed. So that's going to fold down like that. And the width of this piece here was determined by the stamp that I used, because in this set you have got, if you can look here, I'm using here Hello Friend, Thank You and Love You are slightly smaller. So if I wanted to, I could have used one of those stamps, and that would have made this piece here, my fold over piece, a little bit wider, but the depth of the stamp, it wouldn't have changed. But I think it's going to be just take a little bit of a time to play with it and to work out how it can be used. Now, I have dropped on the floor here my other plate, and I'm hoping I can pick it up easily. No, it's not going to pick up easily. Hold a second. Hoping I can pick it up without having to get up. Got it. There we go. Don't drop them on the floor if you have trouble getting down to pick it up. So there's our second trial. So far with this, we have used this and stamped our images out a few different times, getting a nice clear image, and we have done our front of our card. Now, I do need to stamp. So I'm just trying to think. Now, what else can we do with this? As I said before, we can use the big plate. I'm going to pop them to one side. I am going to use the blocks to stamp my flowers, but let's just have a look and see if we were going to use, now where's my scrap that I was playing with before? If we wanted to stamp something in the same spot each time, let's pop that there. So I'm using here these two little nodules. I've got my triangular indentation there. There's no little nodule in the middle, so that allows you to pop that in there with your corner hitting those nodules there, And in actual fact, if I feel it, I think one side of the nodule is flattened a bit. So that can go into there, and we're going to pop those on there. Now I'm going to grab that large leaf again, and I'm going to pop that into that corner. And I'm going to use the Secret C again, just for the fact that it's easy. And I'm going to not put my ink onto there yet. I'm going to use this plate here, line up all those nodules, press down and pick up my stamp. Now that has stuck there a little bit to it, so I'm just going to make sure that that's still all lined up. I am going to bring, because it has moved, I'm going to line this up again, and I'm going to bring those a bit closer. Ink this up. Pop those down on top. Now, as I said before, that's not touching paper as yet. And we're going to stamp that down just like that. Now, if I wanted to stamp the other corner, what I can do is I can move that around. Again, putting it in between these two little nodules here, lining it up with that V there. Pop my magnets down. Ink that up again. Position that onto there like that and press down. So if you're going around something, let's just give it a go. I'm not doing this for this card, but let's take those off for a second and move this out of the road. Got some cardstock here. What I want to do is cut this into, so you can make a wreath. If you've got small enough stamps, you can turn this around and make a wreath. Now I'm going to cut this 10.5 by 10 by 10. So I'm just going to give this a quick trim down. 10 by 10. Actually, if we're doing it on a card, we want to make it a bit smaller. So let's just go, let's play and go, I'm going to go 9. I want a 9 by 9 square. Because I'm just trying this out and I haven't tested anything, I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping this is going to work, so fingers crossed. So let's give this a go again and make like a wreath type. So again, I'm going to take my square, pop it into that corner, in between those two little nodules there, pop down my magnets. And as I said before, you can bring your magnets in nice and close because they're thin enough that they're not going to interfere with your stamping. They're probably slightly shallower or not as deep as your stamp is. Pop those back on and we're going to stamp down. Now if we turn this around, pop that back in again in between those two little nodules and line all that up. Put my magnets on again. Ink up my plate. Pop that down and stamp. So far, so good. Turn it around again. So we've got onto the third corner. Ink this up. Match up the nodules. Press down. Just give that a second press. Turn it around. So this is just a very quick wreath type image that I'm creating here. But instead of bringing a wreath that goes around in circles, it's all coming into the centre. So you sort of, I think there is a name for this sort of thing, but can't remember at the moment. It's like a 4 square, as we're stamping 4 times into the square. So you would end up with a piece like that. These are, apparently, yes, they will work with your cling stamps, that you don't probably have as much of room. So let me grab one and let's have a little bit of a play with that. But you could stamp a sentiment onto this, onto, let me just have a quick look if I can find a small, that's probably a bit too big, but anyway, no, that would work. So you could stamp a sentiment in the middle of that and pop that onto a card base, and that could make quite a pretty card. So, yeah. But that gives you that quite a nice effect. But it's not a wreath as it's imperfectly round. It is slightly square because we're only doing 4 corners. So you'd have to, if you did a wreath with lots of little stamps, you could reposition each one going all the way around. But that's something fun. So I might have to create something with that a little bit later on. Let's have a look. I've got a box down here. I don't know what stamps I've got in here. Let's have a look what I've got. That might be, they're all, I think these are all photopolymer. No, not that one. Let's have a look what else. These are my stamps that I want to keep, and I haven't worked out where they're going to go yet. Keep picking up ones which aren't really. Okay, this one's still current. And no, it's a photopolymer. Okay, that one's not going to work for what I want to do. Let's see if I can find another one. Sort of playing lucky dip here. Putting my hand and seeing what I'm pulling out. That's a cling. There we go. So let's have a look with, doesn't matter which one, does it? So here's a red rubber cling. Let's give this a clean. And pick up a piece of cardstock here. Let's just pop that. I'm going to work this way around. I'm just going to pop that on there. Add some magnets. Now, of course, there's no lines or anything on the actual base, so you do need to work with your grid paper because all your lines and everything are on there. So if you're wanting to line something up and not use that corner positioner, you can get a pencil or a pen and just mark on here where you want things to line up. So here's our stamp. So let's pop that on there. Let's grab our lid here, pop them on. And that is actually at the moment almost resting on that. So if I pick that up without pressing down, it has actually only just picked up that stamp, but I would actually press down to pick it up to make sure you've got it nice and secure on there. Otherwise, what it could do, if it's only just picked up in places, then you have that risk that when you pick it up, it's just going to fall off. Now, whereas before you probably had, I said, about 75 mil in between the plate and the board, with the photopolymer stamps, they would probably take up about 4 mil, so you probably have about 2-3 mils clearance. This one here, you're probably only lucky to have about 1 millimetre or more clearance. Push down and stamp. So yes, you can use it. You just don't have as much clearance. So you'd have to really make sure that you've got it in the right spot. So yes, it does work with the older cling stamps. Okay. So, but I would just take care because it's not hovering as much as what it does with the photopolymer stamps. I'm just trying to think. There was something that I used to do with the Stamparatus, and I'm wondering whether I can still do it. I need multiple colours in ink pads. I've only got 3 with me today. So let's just flip this over. And actually I'm going to use the same stamp. And let's see if we can still do it. So I'm going to use, because it's got a lot more detail on it. So I'm going to use the same stamp, just for the fact that it's going to make it a little bit harder. And I'm going to actually pop that onto an angle because I want to try something, same technique with the photopolymer. So let's just give this a go. So I'm just going to pop that on there, pick that up like we'd normally do. Now I need sponge daubers for this, and it's got green on it. Let's see if I've got, oh well, let's just try. I'm going to put some Secret C on there. And what I'm going to do is use my dauber to colour this in. I'm going to try the same thing on a photopolymer in a minute. And I'm just going to, because this is a technique I used to really love playing with. So I'm just going to colour very gently with my dauber, my Secret C. And then I'm going to flip that over, pop that onto there, and then stamp down. So all I've stamped now is that image there. Now, if I want to go over that again and give it a bit more strength, maybe in some areas, I may not want to have as much colour in every area, but let's just see if we can stamp down. No, it's blurred it, so I've got something wrong there. Something has moved. Let's try that again. So let me just grab another piece of paper. I really want to make this card with you guys too. So let's just try this again. So I'm going to pop that there, put that onto there, that onto there. And I'm just going to ink up my image on there. Now, as I said before, you don't have much play, so that might have been, make sure you've got it on there perfectly stamped down. So you might have a little bit more of play with the cling stamps, or you won't have a bit of play with the cling stamps. Okay, so there's that part of our flower, but I've got my flower head there to do. So let's just have, let me see if I've got a clean dauber in here. And I'm going to do, no, what I'm going to do, I've got, actually found another colour. I've got crumb cake here. Let's just try some crumb cake, which means I'm probably going to have to get another dauber out in a minute. And I want to put the crumb cake on the lower part of that flower. Push that down. Let's see if I've got, well, that's looking pretty. Yep, that worked. So now I've got that section. Let's clean this up again. I will need another dauber. And this time I'm going to grab my petal pink. Oh, golly. I never have trouble opening these up. For some reason I'm having trouble today. As I said, I think my hand coordination is a little bit off. Okay, so let's pop some of this at the top. Let's try this again. So just making sure that we've lined this up almost before you put it down, and then press. There we go. So that's what I've ended up with. So I've used 3 colours. I don't know whether you can see it on there. Now that's using a cling stamp. Let's see if we can do a similar sort of thing, because it should be a lot easier with using photopolymer. Put that down there. So I'm going to grab this leaf here again, and I'm going to pop that leaf down here. I'm just going to move these up a bit. Let's pop this on top. Oops, got this upside down. Make sure you've got it so you can read Stamping Up. And don't put it on upside down, because then you won't have those little feet there. And things have just moved. Okay, line all that up, push down, and then carefully pick up. I think if they did extra magnets, I'd be definitely buying extra magnets, because I like the thinness of these. I like them because they've got those flaps on them. I just think I'd like to have 4 of them. That's myself personally. Okay, so let's try. And I'm going to do 1 leaf and part that stem in Secret C. Now it's not going to be really dark. I might see if I can make it a bit darker, because I am sponging the colour on. Years ago I did a technique same as this with, I think it was called Dandelion Wishes, and I had about 5 different colours with the Stamparatus. So it'd be good if I can do something similar. Okay, let's pick that up gently. Nope, didn't get enough ink on there, so I'm going to put some more ink onto that. Hopefully things haven't moved. Let's pop that down again. Stamp again. Yeah, I still need a little bit more ink in the centre. Now what I have noticed here, I've lost my lines a little bit because the dauber is going into the indentations. I think when I'm pressing it down on the dauber, it's going into those little lines, veins of the leaf. So I've lost that effect a bit. That's okay, it's just a matter of playing with it. Okay, that's enough for that one. Clean it down. So let's, since I've got This one here opened. Let's add the center one. And the petal pink. Colour will never be as strong anyway because of the fact that we're putting it on a doorbell. But let's have a look and see how we go with that one. So I've sort of got another colour in there now. I'll move that up a bit, just so then you can get the gist of what I'm doing here. Let's close this one up, and then we're going, once I finish this one, I think we're going to have to start putting our card together. And let's ink up the last leaf, which is this one here. Probably does need a I think the cling stamps, the red rubber stamps, will actually work better with this technique, just for the fact that the way the ink sits on the stamp. But, I mean, it's just a matter of trying and playing. It doesn't always suit every design either, because, I mean, you know, but anyway, that just gives you a bit of an idea of what you can do with a positioner, in the fact that you can play with your colours and blend your colours together. You could even, this leaf here, take a little bit more colour into that centre leaf, pop that on, stamp down, so you can get a two-tone colour on the one leaf. I don't know whether you can see that. But anyway, that's just giving you a few ideas of what you can do with this particular tool. So that was fun. Let's make our card. Let's get this card done and dusted. So take that off. Now, I would suggest to store these somewhere safe, because on the other one you had somewhere to put them. They will sit on there, not fall off. So you could very easily just sort of store that somewhere like that. But just, you know, be careful you don't lose those. You don't have to try to replace them. Let me take that stamp off there too before I lose it. But I think it's going to be a very, very handy tool, especially if you're someone who has a lot of trouble stamping an image first time round. You know, if you rock your stamp and get a lot of shadowing, or some people call it ghosting, to maybe just the fact you don't need a lot of strength to stamp down on that. You can use your whole hand to stamp down. I think it's going to be a very, very handy tool for a lot of people. I'm actually going to have a lot of fun playing with that more. So let me just pop that to one side, and I didn't want that to go down there. Hold on one second. I didn't put it somewhere secure, so just a piece I do want for later. Which is that piece. So we'll be needing that to finish our card. So did you find any of that information helpful? Let me know. If there's something else you want me to try, I can try next week. Let me know. Okay, let me grab all the bits and pieces we need to create our card. So I've got it all here. We have got our leaves, which we've already cut. I've got my card front there, which is already done. I do need to do some more stamping, so I need to find, so I don't stamp on the wrong piece. That piece there. So it's just a quarter sheet. Let me just double make sure, because this is my card insert. Make sure I've got the right piece with me. Yes, okay. So I'm just going to pop all of these to one side. We're going to do a little bit more stamping, and not with that. I've got my 2 flowers here, and we're also going to stamp our sentiment, but I'm going to stamp my sentiment after I've die cut. Now, generally, I like to die cut first, stamp later, but this time we're going to do it the other way around. Now, I do want to stamp my flowers using Secret C, and I'm just going to use the block for this, just for the fact that it's nice and quick. And I want to stamp at least 2 of those and 2 of these. So I was about to call it a stamper artist, but the stamp positioner isn't going to replace your blocks. You can replace your blocks with them if, you know, as I said, if you have someone who has a little bit of trouble with their stamping. But I mean, as a whole, I don't think it's going to replace your blocks. You're still going to need your blocks to do some of your stamping. Just going to give those a bit of a clean down now and put them out of the road. And I am just thinking I want this. And because I've already used up those daubers, I will need another one. Or what you can use, actually, which will be a little bit softer, I'm just going to grab a small blending brush, if I've got one here. Let's see if I've got one over in my little box of tricks here. No. This one might do. Yep. All I want to do is add a little bit of cloud cover into the center of my flowers. So I'm just going to put a little bit onto this blending brush and just give that a little bit of a light brush in the center there. Don't need too much. Possibly just tap off some of your ink, but I'm just taking it very lightly down to my flower. And just a little bit more on there. So that's really all I want on there. I just want a little bit of colour. Nothing too much on there at all. Now we're going to run these through and die cut these. So I need the dies for this, and I keep mine all in the one packet. So I need that leaf to cut out those leaves. I need that one and that one. And we need that. So I'm going to grab my large cut and emboss. Just move that out of the road so I can get to it. I think I need to find another place to keep my trimmer. Really is not liking where I've got it at the moment. And I really don't need it to get broken. So let's just use this because we can cut multiple pieces out at a time. So I've got my plates 1, 2, and my 2 3s. Now, the only thing I find with these dies, I do have to go around this a few times to get the right section. Once I've got that, I just need, let me give this a try. This is low tack masking tape, because the Post-it notes that I've been using, usually get from Officeworks, aren't available anymore. So I'm hoping that this will work I'm just going to pop this just on the edge there, and then this one on here. Just move this around so you can see what I'm doing. Just lining these up. And we're going to give only other one I want to pop in. I want to do this because I usually will stamp my sentiment and then line up my die, but my lovely friend in England showed another way you can use the stamp repositioner to do it the opposite way. So let's give it a go. So let's pop that through there. Fingers crossed that that tape has worked. Yep. I don't know whether it's going to be successful. It seems to be catching. Problem is, when you put it through the cut and emboss machine, what is supposed to be low tack ends up being high tack because the machine pushes it together more. So if you're not careful pulling it apart, you can rip off the image off your paper. So I don't want to do that. And there's the sentiment piece I've just cut, and I need to cut one more. Turn this around again. Yeah, that piece of masking tape is really stuck on there. So I don't know how well this is going to actually work. I think I'm going to have to play and find. This is the one I've been using, and I've used it for many years, but I can't seem to be able to buy it anymore. It was a Burroughs product, which is Officeworks, and they don't seem to keep it. So let's pop that plate on top of that again. Run this through. See, this one here just separates so easily. Every time you find something that works really well for what you want it, they stop making it. So if someone else has something, another product that they use, please let me know so I can give it a try. Okay, so that's that one done. And now we need to cut at least 3 of these. The reason why I've stamped the Secret C on the cloud cover is for the fact that I've just realised, oh yes, I did it on the right side, because I'm using the double-sided, the two-tone cardstock here. Is in the DSP, and I'll show you the DSP I'm talking about, the leaves have got cloud cover in the veining. So I wanted to replicate that. And also too, it will blend in a bit more than having that stark white, since I really don't have any white besides the sentiment on the card front at all. Oh, and the flowers. So I probably could have got away doing it on white, but line that up, pop that down. Yeah, Marilyn, what brand was it? Because every one I've used, I mean, I've got one which I was recommended to use years ago, and I'm trying to think now what's it called, frog tape, and that's too tacky, and it's the one I've got is, I think it's the green one, which is supposed to be the low tack. I just find it is low tack, but when you put it through the cut and emboss machine, it sort of bonds it a bit more. Whereas this post-it note tape, and I even find the same thing with washi tape. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's just me that I'm having an issue with those things. I don't know. But, yeah, I'd just be interested. It's just disappointing when you, as I said before, when you find a product you're really happy with and it really works well with what you want to do, then all of a sudden you can't buy it anymore. This becomes a little bit frustrating. I mean, I've got enough probably. I mean, I don't use a huge amount of it because, as you can see, with these, I've used the same little piece quite a few times. So I am rather frugal at it with it. But if I'm going to have, I'm starting classes again this year and home-based classes, and not everybody else is as frugal as maybe what I am. So, and you could use, you know, sort of like a square of Post-it note tape. But see, I bought this one here, which is supposed to be a low tack. That one there is supposed to be low tack. And so far I'm having issues with all of them. Okay, and this is the one I love and I can't get it. Okay then, so there is our die cut flowers. Now our sentiment. Now this is what, and I'd showed this before, so I'm going to grab my sentiment and I'm actually going to pop that onto here, and I'm still using the Hello Friend, and I'm just going to use this little plate here. Okay, it's got 4 spring-loaded legs on it, so I can pop that over the top, push it down, and it'll pick it up. Now, all that, I mean, I could have just done that on here. I could have just popped my sentiment down on my board here, push this down, and pick it up. It doesn't really matter with this, because what we're going to do is I'm going to ink my sentiment in my Secret C. And because this hovers over the top, I can move this around. Okay, and then I can just, I'm sorry if my head's in the road, but then I can just move this around and find exactly where I want it to go. Okay, and once you're happy with the position, because it's sitting up on legs, it's just hovering, there's no ink touching paper, and I'm just going to push down, hold it for a couple of seconds to let that ink absorb, and then take that off the back, and I'm happy with that. So I just thought that was excellent. It was such a great way, because, you know, sometimes when you hover with just a block, you're not hovering as much as what you think you are. You know, you haven't got it above your work as far up as you think. So you know that with this one here, you do have that clearance. So that's pretty much all our stamping and everything we need to do. So let's put our card together. Now this is a 3-fold card, as I said before. And let me just take everything out. I will put all my measurements up on my blog. I didn't get last week's card up on my blog, so I've got double blogging to do this weekend. So this is all our bits and pieces. So everything will be there. Now what I have got here, as I said before, I am using the 2-tone cardstock. So, and I'm going to be using the dark side of it all. I'm just working out what's my dark, my light. I'm just going to pop that piece there to one side, and I'm going to flip those over. So that's all my dark side. So these are all my mats. Now that one there I'm going to pop to one side, and then I have my designer series paper. Now this is the reason why I use the Secret C on the card cover. If you have a look at these leaves here, they've got cloud cover in their veining. So I just wanted to replicate that, because this whole idea of this card is sort of coming from this, the idea from this paper here. So I need 2 pieces of that, and then I'm using this one, which is on the back, is that beautiful paper there. So I'm just using this piece here. Now each one of these is going to get adhered to a mat. So we've got 2 of each. So this, we're going to have one on that one, and these are all the same. So these 2 are just the same size, but just using a different DSP. We're going to have one on there, and then I've got another piece here for my card insert, and I'm just going to pop that to one side. So let's just glue all this together, and then you can see how this card all came together in my head. And we're going to, fingers crossed, it's going to look just as good in my head as for real. So we're just going to adhere these together. I'm probably sitting a little bit further away from the table than I normally do, so I keep forgetting to move further up. So there's that one. Then we're going to adhere this piece onto here. Now, as I said before, the fold over piece on my 3-fold card all depended on what sentiment I used. So the sizes of these pieces here will change. So let me just grab my card so I can show you what I mean. So here's our card. Here's what we stamped earlier using the repositioning tool. And I've got this fold over piece here, and it just sits on just before the H. Now, this is probably one of the larger stamps. If you go to one of the smaller ones, you could make this panel here a little bit wider, okay? At the moment, this is about, I think it's 5 centimetres in width. But if I had have used one of the Love You, or what was the other one? Had to use the Thank You or Love You, I could have made this even up to 6 centimetres. But I didn't want to cover up my Hello Friend. So once I've done that, we're going to give this a really good, make sure that glue in there is well and truly adhered. And then we're going to adhere this one on here. So I'm using the darker side of my 2-tone cardstock. And the reason why I'm using the 2-tone cardstock is the fact it's a lighter weight card than my card base. That's our cardstock, our solid cardstock. This is the white core 2-tone, where you have a dark side and a light side, as you can see there. So we now have got all of those pieces adhered, and now I've got this little piece here and my sentiment. So I'm going to adhere, again keeping my dark side up. I'm going to put a bit of adhesive on the back of this, my light side. And now this is my piece that's going to go on the inside of my card. So my card insert, and I'm popping a little bit of decoration on the bottom of it. And then I'm using this one here, and I decided to use this panel just to break up some of the other designer series paper, so it's not all too heavy on the inside, and to bring a bit of the front to the back. Try not to use too much glue, otherwise it will ooze out, and that's a little bit of a problem I'm having here at the moment. It's a new thing of glue, so it's sort of oozing a little bit. So I just like to have you could use your snail, but I like to have that little bit of slip that you get with using your multi-purpose glue, just to make sure everything is nicely lined up. So that is that there. I'm just going to move these out of my road and let's adhere all of these into our card. So this one here, we're going to open that up and we're going to adhere this one onto the front of our card. Lining all of that up there. So that's our front of our card there. Now this card is going to be very, very thick because we've got lots of layers on the inside and outside. But I just thought the inside just need to be prettied up a little bit. So this one here we're going to pop on the inside of our card, so you can just go on the inside there. Now this is one piece, if you wanted it not as thick, you could leave this bit off. This one and over here. But as I said, I've tried to make it as light as I possibly can by not using the thick cardstock, by using the two-tone cardstock because it's slightly lighter. And also too, if you didn't want to have these pieces on the side, on both sides, you don't really have to. But I just sort of felt it's pretty. It's such a pretty paper. And I wanted to bring the outside inside. And then this one is going to go in the middle. Now I am going to create a belly band for this card. If you didn't want a belly band, you could put magnets. But magnets would have to have been added on before this stage because you would have had to have put one of the magnets, I think, would have had to have gone, yes, underneath this panel here. And then another magnet would have had to have gone on underneath this panel so the two could marry up like that. But that's our card so far. So we're opening it up like that. So now we're going to pop our belly band on here because, as I said, it's quite a thick card, so we do need something to hold it all together. And I have got my dark side of my cardstock there. Now this length is 30 centimetres by about 3, and I'm just going to lightly wrap this around. I haven't pressed anything in as yet, but I just want to work out where I want this fold to go, and I want it to go somewhere on that panel. I keep it as square as we possibly can. Don't want to make it too tight, so you're better off being a little bit looser than tight, otherwise you'll never get it on and off. And once you're happy with it, I'm just going to fold those or crease those ends there with my fingers. Now, I need a pair of scissors and grab those. And I just need to trim this off a little bit. Now, most of this is going to get hidden, but I am going to trim this off a little bit at an angle because I think it's just going to, if any of it is seen, because you will have a little bit of the edges seen, it's not going to be as noticeable. Now I'm going to use tear and tape for this next pop bit, just so then I haven't got glue going everywhere and I know it's going to adhere. So I'm just going to add some tearing tape along this angle. This angle will sort of give it a little bit of a ribbony type effect. Again, just making sure all of this is lined up. want it to be as straight as you possibly can and not too tight. So make sure you've got all these pieces all nicely lined up, and that's going to, well, if we take the backing off our tear and tape, it might stick. It won't stick if we leave the backing on there, will it? There we go. Take that off. That will help me a long way. Okay, let's try this again. So we're not going to pull it too tight. We want to make sure everything's lined up, and that's going to go like that. I'm probably out a little bit, but I can, that's okay. It's only just a little bit, and I can just trim just like a little smidgen just off there. So that's our belly band, and we're going to decorate our belly band now. So that will now go back on there because I haven't made it too tight. I can slip it on and off. That's okay, Leslie. So now we're going to grab some of these flowers, and we've got our hello friend, and I want the hello friend to go across there. So we're going to use some dimensionals to pop these on. Now I'm going to start with my main flower, and I'm going to pop only 2 dimensionals, and as you know, I like to pop them into the center, and that way I can then line things up all the way around the edge. So I don't really want to stick that on there. I want to find a nice spot. Now make sure that your dimensionals that you've only got them on that belly band. Okay, you don't want to have them, see how I've just got mine sitting on that belly band? You don't want them going off the belly band and attaching themselves to the card. So that go on there. Now I'm just going to grab another pack. I thought I had, these are very high. No, looks like I need another packet. I'll still use these. So these ones I think came out of a kit, and in the kits got a few on here. In the kits the dimensionals are actually slightly thicker. So that's okay because that's going to be sitting up the top. Okay, so let's just have a quick look where we want this to go. I want that to sort of come out from in there, and I actually might glue that down because I think that's going to be in a good position, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue there in the middle. Don't want this up on dimensionals. I like to have things going up and down and add some height, and we just want to pop that in there far enough that we can still see the hello, but not so far that's coming outside the belly band. And then some of these we can now stick, and remember we can't go, you don't want to go too far this way because otherwise it's never going to go into an envelope. So we want to stick this in here, but you're better off going this direction. So I'm going to pop that in there, and I'm going to pop that with a little bit of glue there. Now again, we're only sticking this onto the belly band, so I've just got to make sure that that's going right in there under the belly band. Well, not under the belly band, but on top and underneath that flower. If you wanted to, you could stick more flowers in here, but I think I'm just going to keep this quite simple. Now, do I need another? Because at one stage I was thinking of adding, that will go into there. That would actually look quite nice. I stamped so many flowers because I really wasn't 100% certain how this is all going to go. Again, I'm going to stick that on top of my belly band, but I'm going to tuck it right in so it's within the confines of my card. And I think that might be enough for that. If I wanted to, what I could do, so let's take that off for a moment because this is quite simple in here. But we are adding more layers. So you just got to remember you are adding more. And I think I do like that. So I'm going to take advantage of these extra pieces that I have got. I'm going to pop that one there. And these, I'm not putting these on dimensionals, I'm just gluing them straight down because I don't want that all that extra height in there. So let's just remove some of these bits and pieces. So this piece is going to fold over, that's going to go over the top, and then our belly band is going to go over that and finish that off beautifully. Now we can also add, because with this suite, whoops, I just lost something out of there. With this suite we do have these as well, and I think I might take a picture. We've got a lot of blues and a lot of white in this, and I'm just wondering whether the green might look good, just as something, just to give a little bit more, a little bit of a different colour in this. So I'm going to pop maybe, let's have a look. I need to pop it on the belly band, I think, because I don't want it popping it in other places, and I want to create a triangle effect. I'm going to pop one on that leaf, and I might pop another one on that leaf, but just a little bit further out. So you want to keep it in odd numbers, and you really want it to form like a triangle. So I probably could put, and you could have clusters of 3, or you could have 3 individual. It's really up to you. I'm just sort of wondering, because I'm going to lose, this is going 4, but I can go 5. But if I did another big one over here, no, maybe I might just leave it at that. Well, the other thing is I could take, depending on how well that's stuck down, that could come off here and go on up here. That's still forming a bit of a triangle. So I might leave that at that. So there you go. So what we've done today, we've had a look at the new positioning tool. We've had a bit of a play with it and trying out a few techniques, and with some of them using to make this card. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Just a little bit of fun. As I said, first time I've pulled this out of the packet, so I haven't had a chance to play with it till today, and so far I'm liking what I'm using. So if you are a demonstrator, you can purchase one of these repositioning tools right now, but you've only got another day or 2 to do that. If you are just a someone who hasn't become a demonstrator as yet, and you're interested in getting one of these positioning tools, I would recommend that you join up now, or not now, but after the 2nd or 3rd of February it is. So join up then and you will get this for free, okay? So in the month of February, you can become a Stampin' Up demonstrator and get this repositioning tool for free. If you have any questions or anything about joining up here in Australia, please contact me. I'd love for you to join my team. So, and you can find the information for my team on my blog. If you go into Stampin' Up, michelejutrisa.stampinup.net. But the information about getting this for free won't become available on that site until after the 2nd of February. So it's the month of February that you can get this for free. Hope that has answered a few questions for you. If you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, have a lovely day. Have a lovely weekend. I'm actually going to move out of my craft room It has been very hot in here today, and I'm going to go and cool down, so with a nice cold drink. So have a lovely day. Take care. Have a beautiful weekend, and tag me in whatever you make with your positioning tool. Love to see it. Take care for now. Bye.